Mainly, I was just saying that there's usually going to be a track of the live room and a track of the reporter's voice. Not in all of the jobs that I put up was that there.
Okay.
So if it was just my voice and I dropped words, well, then you can't really go and listen to the live room if I didn't attach the live room. But what I was saying is that after you go through and listen to it once and make the corrections, it's a good idea to read it for context, because a lot of the times just reading it for context will tell you, oh, that's not the right word. That can't possibly make sense. Not that people don't say nonsensical things, because they truly do. They'll say some crazy things in depositions, but for the most part, you'll be able to get it from either one or the other track. And as we move on, I'll be providing some more realistic tracks. Right now, I'm trying to give you some some things that are not too fast and pretty easy and short, so that you don't get frustrated with it. Because in the beginning, when you haven't been doing this at all, it's a little bit of a stretch for us all to say, oh my God, I have to listen to this person's voice and figure out what they're saying and then compare it to the text. So it's normal to kind of be off balance at first with it, but you'll catch it, and maybe you'll get some better jobs too. You'll download some better jobs that'll be easier. So tonight, the first thing I would like to do, let me go ahead and share my screen. The first thing I want to show you is that on the Scopist class, beneath the introduction to the remote Scopist main menu, the very last thing there, I've just added a URL, a link to download something called Generic Styles Set Number 1. And what I've done today is I've spent some time going into styles that I've created for the various court reporters that I have, and removing their names and their certificate numbers and all that, and making sure that it is a style that anybody can use for those states, whether they be depositions or court styles. I'm going to try to have one additional generic set for you every week, so that by the time we're done, you will have a generic set for every state. If I have one for court and one for deposition, you will have one for each of those for every state that I have. That way you'll be prepared to take scoping jobs for people, even if they don't have SpeechCat, because you can do anybody's work with Scopist. As long as you have at least an audio file, you can do that. What you'll be hoping to get is an audio file and a text file. And that will, of course, be the easiest thing of all. And again, if you're working for a SpeechCat reporter, their style is going to come with their jobs. And so you don't really have to worry about not having a style for a SpeechCat reporter that you're working for. But if you want to do scoping jobs for other reporters, it'll be nice to have these generic styles that you can use to get one of these jobs done. So now I'm going to move on down to the editing features of Scope, and we're going to talk about these in a little more detail. Word swaps is without a doubt the easiest of all of these tools. So I'm going to bring up my Scopist screen, make sure that you can see it. Yes, you can. Okay. And I'm going to go into Scope. Okay, that one has not been transcribed. So let's go into this one. Okay. Okay, so good morning, Mrs. Moore. My name is John Might. That can't be right. We had the opportunity to be introduced just a few minutes ago. I'm sure you're... Okay, actually, I should probably tell you about conflicts first. Have I told you about conflicts before? I can't remember if I have or not, but the conflicts are these things that you see in brackets. So you see in light blue brackets, one word, it's usually at least 2 words, possibly 3, and sometimes 4. And what it is it's a set of words that I have added to my conflicts list because they're a problem for me. So if you have conflicts in the documents that you have, it's because the voice writer that's sending you jobs had that feature on. Conflicts is really easy. As you're listening to the text, you're just listening for what's right and clicking on the right one. The reason that there's one of the choices in black is because that's the one that Speech Cat and Dragon think is right. It's not necessarily always going to be the right one, but 95% of the time it will be. So I'll just start the audio playback and show you how I select these, how I click on these conflicts.
Right, we have the opportunity to be introduced just a few minutes ago. I'm sure your attorney is still true, but I'm representing parties in this matter. Have you ever been in a position before? Echo, yes. Kika, okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in a second, but first I want...
Okay, see, this is a good example. This one was not, none of the options were there because it's, okay, I'm going to talk. And so what I would probably do is just select the one that's nearest it and make the change. My keyboard is acting funny. I'm going to talk. Okay. And so I
Matter, have you ever been in a position before? Echo, yes. Kika, okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in a second, but first I want you to state your phone name for the record. Echo, Shirley, and more. Kiko, tell me what your current address is. Echo, 3601 Canto Boulevard, Beaumont, Texas. Kiko, how long have you lived there? Echo, 4 years. Kiko, have you spent much of your life in Beaumont, Texas?
it's going way faster. I have a foot pedal, but I haven't plugged it in yet. Foot pedals make it so easy because when you want to stop the playback, you just lift your foot up. And that's a lot easier than searching for a key to stop the audio. And so the easiest thing to do is to use a foot pedal. For if you've never used it, you might not miss it. I do when I'm not using it. Another thing that I see right away is if you look right here where there's an answer, a period, and then 4 years, court reporters always want the word instead of the number. So that's a good place for me to do Control Y. And as I'm doing Control Y, you can see that it switched from the number 4 to FORE to FOR to FOUR. And because it's at the beginning of the sentence, it needs to be initial capped. So I'll just do Control I to do that. Some of these things you can just read and see what it is. Like this right here, group. That happened to be grew up. And so that is something I would make a note in my accuracy journal, that group and grew up is a conflict for me. You'll learn more about this as you go through it more. And then you just click on the option you want. And then some of them are so inaccurate that it doesn't make sense. Like this one doesn't make sense.
In Dallas for 6 years. We moved to Beaumont. Hugo, since you've given a deposition before, you understand that this...
And this is nowhere near what I said. Since you've given a deposition before. Oh no, that's the next one. Let me see.
Grew up in Dallas. Kiko then moved to Beaumont. Echo then stayed in Dallas for 6 years. Then moved to Beaumont.
Stayed in Dallas. In Dallas for, and then here I can do Control Y for the word swap. 6 years, then moved out to Beaumont. Okay, so you can see how the conflicts are probably the easiest thing to fix, as all you have to do is click on it to make the choice. And then the Control Y for word swap for a sounds like word. is very good for the ins, the ands, the there, and there, things like that. And then I believe that I've already told you guys about when there is a change of speaker. So it's going from an examination to cross-examination. Court reporters will put in things like this, cross-examination by. I entered that by using a brief form. And a brief form is just something that you make up. We do have a great deal of them by default here. If you open up the options menu, here are all the short forms right here. And here's the long forms that they'll bring in. And some of these you will use, others you won't use because you can't remember them. I encourage people to create their own brief forms because we all tend to remember much more that which we create. It's very hard for me to remember brief forms that other people create. So you'll want to be looking for what kind of things you find yourself typing in that are the same every time. And you can use the brief forms to enter that. What you'll notice on the course is that for each of these different things here, if you click on the thing that says resource and then word swaps, it will actually bring up the FAQ on the document where you can read more about it. I encourage you to print these out so that you can start creating a binder for yourself of the most important frequently asked question documents. I'm going to provide those to you in the course, so you'll be able to just download them, print them out, or keep them in a folder on your computer so that you can access them whenever you want or need to do that. And all of these files are here for you. And again, you can find them all. So you'll find them all under editing features of Scope. Now, there's we've talked about the word swaps, the conflicts, and the brief forms. This is really important here. This is the hotkeys handy, which you should print out because it'll give you what all of the hotkeys are. And in the beginning, when you're just learning, you really need this cheat sheet. It's going to help you a lot. So I suggest you print it out. Now I'd like to talk about real-time rules. This is something that you can create by reporter. So if you're working with a certain reporter, you're going to see the same kinds of errors coming up for that person over time. And you can actually help them a great deal by creating a real-time rules list for them. So to do that, I would go to Edit, and I would click on Real-Time Rules. And I could create a folder. So let's say that I want to create a folder for one of my reporters. I'm going to just call this Reporter 1. I'm going to click on OK. And I can then add real-time rules to that specific user's real-time rule set. For instance, I'm going to go ahead and add one right now. I got group when I said grew up. Well, actually, I can't add that because then every time I say group, it will change it to grew up. So I'm going to cancel that, and instead I'm going to do a word swap for it. So I'll go to my options up here, right underneath the word hotkeys, and I'm going to go to the word swap tab. I'm going to click on add, and I'm going to type in the word group. I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to type in the words grew up and hit enter. And that's what I want for that swap. So I'm going to hit save. And from now on, if I see that again, all I have to do if I see group and it's supposed to be grew up, all I have to do is have my cursor somewhere on the letter group and hit Control Y, and it'll change it for me. So as you're going through and editing, you can make notes of what you think needs to be added as a real-time rule or a word swap. One simple thing to remember is that a word swap you can make for just about anything, because it is not going to happen automatically. You have to actually hit Control Y. Whereas a real-time rule, when you create a real-time rule, it's going to happen every single time. So if it's a common word like group and you do not want it to change group to grew up every single time, then you would not want to add that as a real-time rule. You would want to select some other type of conflict resolution for it. Conflicts just gives you this grouping of words that you can select, but conflicts happens as the reporter dictates it. So it won't help you to add conflicts. It'll only help the reporter to add conflicts. However, you can make a suggestion to the reporter when you're turning in work that these would make good conflicts for you. These would make good word swaps. These would make a good real-time rule. And you would find yourself quickly becoming that court reporter's very favorite scopist, because you are helping her or him with their jobs by suggesting these things. So I think it's really smart to keep a notepad next to you, and when you notice something, especially if it happens more than one time, you know, anything can happen once, but if it happens multiple times, then you know you really need to find a way. Okay. And so that's real-time rules. One of the things that, hang on just a minute. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to show you all was, there are some of the jobs that I did in really big letters. And so the question was, how can I change that so that it's in a more manageable size? I'd like to direct your attention to the upper right-hand corner of the scope screen. This is the display sets. And when I change the display set, you will see that the size of the text, sometimes the font of the text will change. So I'm just going to click on the next one and see what it gives me. You can see that the display set is up here at the top. So if I click again, and you can see at the bottom in the green taskbar, assigning display set. So you can see that it changes based on what display set is being viewed. Also, the color of the background can change. As you can see there, that's a bit bright for my liking. And you just want to allow it to change. If you see something in the status bar, just be patient, because, see, now here, this is one that's a little different. It's still Courier New, but this is single space. You don't see this too often anymore these days. Now here is one that is a completely different font. The font is Lucida Sans 18. And so this is probably a CART font. Yep, sure is. Because it's more readable. And when you're doing CART as opposed to court reporting, they don't have to adhere to the Courier New 12 requirement that some states place on their court reporters. I should say most states place on their court reporters. So there are going to be as many display sets to go through as you have on your computer. And if you want to know where your display sets are and if you can configure one for yourself, we'll close out of Scope. And from the remote Scopist main menu, I'm going to go to Edit and Edit Display Sets. And this is a list of my display sets. So as you can see, it's very, very large. But that's because of who I am. Most court reporters do not have this many display sets. I create styles for people every single day. And so I have a ton of them. I'll go into my easy to read display set here. So you can see that this one is set to 18 points. It's still Courier New. It's line spacing 1.5, which probably should be double because line spacing is almost always double. But I also have a setting that I can set that makes my easy to read go down to Courier New 12 when I go to the word processor. Now, with you guys, if you want to change it in the scope screen, I have no problem with that. Someone else came across one of the jobs, and I'm not sure which one it is, that is in all caps. I put that one there so that you could get used to seeing that, because that is how some court reporters do their work. Believe it or not, they do it in all caps, and that really just is when and where they're allowed to do it. Some courts don't allow that at all. Some courts think it's fine, no problem. It's always easier for the reporter because they don't have to worry about initial capping anything. It's just in all caps. I don't find that it's easier to read at all. I think that all caps is a little harder to read. So while I wanted to show you that you could get something in all caps from a reporter, and if you do get it in all caps from a reporter, you would then have to return it to that reporter in all caps, unless the reporter specifically said, I had all caps on, that's not what I want, change it. And there is a feature in Microsoft Word that will change something from all caps to sentence case. And so that's a good thing to know, so that you don't sit there and try to turn an uppercase document into a sentence case document by hand, because that would not be fun, I don't think. Now, I think that just about everybody was able to eventually download a job and get a job to me. Those of you who've been busy and were not able to, no worries, just get it in when you can. This class is self-paced. It's all about when you're ready and what you're ready for when you're ready for it. So don't worry about not turning something in on time. Get it in when you can get it in. By the end of the class, what you've turned in is what I will have looked at. I won't be looking at any after the class. It'll just be during the class. So it's your chance to get feedback. Today, I received several transcripts, but I did not have the time today to go and actually review them. So those of you who might have gotten transcripts to me last night or today, I have downloaded them. I have simply not had time yet to go through them all. So no worries there. I will get to them for you. Some of you, I think maybe one person, went ahead and pulled in their cover pages, and that was great. That's something that you're going to need to learn how to do. From the main menu, if you double click on a job, it will take you back to the new job screen where you can fill in some information. Normally, this information has to come from the court reporter. So if it's not filled in, you really can't do your cover pages and your certificate pages. You can bring them in, but they'll be virtually empty. So if there are no replacement fields filled out in a job that I have you download, there's no requirement for you to do the cover pages on that. If the job replacement fields are filled out, then I would like you to bring in the cover pages. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about we're going to do this next week because I want to give y'all enough time to continue working on your first jobs and just get used to hearing the audio files and making the corrections and just getting used to the hotkeys. That's my primary goal for you right now. That's the most important thing. Next week, we're going to talk about how to create an index. And so I'm going to be sending you all, yes, please. I'm going to be sending you all a job with lots of exhibits and things that you can create an index with so that we can play with it during class. I'll have it set to download. But you don't have to download it until next Monday if you don't want to. If you want to download it as soon as you see it, that's fine too. And if you want to start practicing with the index feature, you certainly can. I will go over it in class next week so that we'll go over how to mark an exhibit, how to go and view your virtual exhibit lists, and how to make changes to those virtual lists. And then we'll actually talk about bringing those lists in. If you've never created an index, I can tell you that the reason we wrote a feature for it was because I had this official come in the early years, and she brought an index with her, and the index must have been 18 pages long. And I looked at it and I said, oh my God, how long does it take you to do this? And she said, forever. And I said, well, what do you have to do? She said, I have to search for the word exhibit and then write down the page number it's on and write down what the exhibit is. I said, wow, that doesn't sound like fun at all. She said, it's not. I said, okay. And so I went and spoke to my programmer and we worked it out and we built this feature. And so the way the feature works is that you're going along in the document. I do the same thing. I do Control F to bring up the find replace. I type in the word exhibit and I go to next and I highlight the exhibit and then I do Alt R, Alt I1, Alt I2, Alt I3. That's how you add the word or phrase to an exhibit list. And it's really kind of cool. And it's so much easier than making an index list the way court reporters used to have to make it. You'll find that you can actually do it while you're doing your first edit, because we also have the ability to reformat the index pages. And what that does is if the page numbering has changed as you've entered things in, like if you're working for a writer whose recognition isn't all that great, and there might be 5 or 6 lines of text that just didn't translate for whatever reason. Maybe her mic got wet, and you're expected to type all of that in. That can be pretty cumbersome for a person who is not used to doing a lot of typing. And so I try to make it as easy as possible to highlight the exhibit and add it to a virtual index. And then you can actually go in and have Remote Scopist update that index and update the page numbers of those indexes when you've had to enter large groupings of text. That will obviously change your page numbering. It will affect your page numbering. And so it's nice that you can go in and make that change manually, and you can automate the process of having the page numbers changed for you. And we'll actually insert the index as well. So this coming week, I want you to work more with the jobs. For those of you who haven't gotten any jobs in, try to get one job done. Doesn't have to be a long one, just start. Got to start somewhere. So start if you can. I had someone ask me today, I haven't had a chance to do any of the jobs. I'm working on an expedite. This person's already a scopist. Can I turn in the work that I'm doing? And I said, no, because you would have to change all the names in the job. And I didn't want her to go through all that. So don't worry about it if you haven't done any. Just do it at your own pace. Try to get one done. If you're having trouble, let me know. I can do a one-on-one with you and find out what your problem is. If you're having a problem logging into Zoom and you want some help with that, please, text me, Skype me during the week and see if I have a minute here or there to spend a little bit of time with you so that you can practice jumping on the Zoom meeting. Anything that you're having a problem with, we can get past it. I just need to know what the problem is. And I need generally some time with you. I understand that some of you work during the day, and if you do, and you can't be available until 5:30 or 6, then let me know, and I'll try to be available for you between 6 and 6:30 on Tuesday night so that I can help you before class. So I'm going to pop back to the course. And I don't know if you've had a chance to watch this video on editing in Scope, but that shows you a lot of the things that you can do when you're editing a document as well. And there's a presentation. This is just a PowerPoint. So this one's probably going to take you a lot less time than the video. And you should be doing your quizzes. Quizzes are what tell you what you understand and what you don't. And quizzes are the only way to earn, you can earn 3 certificates in this class. You can earn the certificate of completion, which means you showed up and you did what was asked of you. You can earn the certificate of achievement, meaning that you at least attempted all the quizzes, or you can earn a certificate of excellence, which means that you actually aced everything. So all of you will get a certificate for showing up. It's up to you if you get one of the higher certificates. And they're beautiful. You can hang them on your wall. They're definitely frame worthy. So do attempt to do your quizzes, more for yourself than for me. And this section here on what do you send back to the reporter, for right now, you are sending to me an RTF file, meaning you are saving the file from Scope in rich text format, and then you are emailing it to me. Every single one of you that have submitted something so far have done a great job of submitting. Really, really great. Everything looks exactly the way I asked you to get it to me, and I had no trouble opening the jobs at all. And the majority of you are doing a really good job with your transcription. There are some of you that are at very different levels than others. Obviously, those of you who have trained as court reporters are putting out pretty nice transcripts. I expect that because you've got that training behind you. And some of you who have already been Scopist for a while also are turning in absolutely fantastic work. Keep in mind that it will be those of you who turn in the best work that I will recommend to my court reporters first. So do try to do a good job. Do give it your all. Do read over your work. A lot of times just reading over it will give you an extra level of, oh, maybe that is wrong, and make you listen to it again. Oftentimes when you listen to things, it really does, just like the group and the grew up, they sound very similar, especially when you're going at a fast pace. So Remember to read the text without listening to the audio at least once, and that will give you a big shining light about what's not making sense, and then perhaps go and listen to the audio again. These first jobs that I have up here are random. Some of them have both audio files, some of them just have one. I'm sort of trying to shake you up a little bit to make sure that you understand that you are going to get things from different people in different ways. Some people's recognition will be superb. That's going to be the court reporters you want to work for, most likely. The people that whose recognition is not good, you're going to have a look at it and say, geez, it would be easier for me to type this. So you're going to want a high quality reporter. And so you need to be a high quality scopist, because your life is going to be a lot easier if you get a reporter that speaks well and has good recognition accuracy. Any questions about any of that? No? Okay, then. I thank you all for joining me tonight. Continue to do what you're doing. Let me know if you have any problems. Skype me with questions. If you find something in the course that is not right, a question that doesn't seem easy to answer, email it to me and tell me what the question was and what the problem is so that I can go and make it better. Okay? I thank you all for your attention. I'll see you all next Tuesday night. Bye, everybody. Yes? Oh, thank you. Okay. Do we have a specific homework assignment? No, not a specific assignment. I want you to keep working on the jobs that I've posted there for you. Keep working on those jobs. For those of you, if the jobs are already done, too easy or something like that, let me know. And I'll try to get something that is a little more challenging for you. But right now, it's all about just learning how to use the hotkeys, really. That's the important thing, because the more you learn your hotkeys, the faster you are going to be. And that's why I want to give you these short little jobs so that you can play with your hotkeys and try to commit them to memory. That's going to make it a lot easier. So just keep on doing what you're doing. And I thank you again. Melissa, if you were not able to hear me very well, please make sure your audio is turned up as loudly as possible, because I don't want to blow everybody out. So your volume might have been a little down. Did everybody else hear me nice and clear and loud, or no?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard you fine.
Okay, good. Good, awesome. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Adria.
Okay. You're welcome. See y'all next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.